Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast, B2B edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing professionals like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling organizations like yours. Now, imagine for a moment you're standing at the helm of a ship, much like Christopher Columbus as he sets sail for the New World. The vast ocean of digital marketing stretches out before you, full of opportunity but also fraught with uncertainty. Now, what if I told you there was a compass, a simple yet powerful tool or tactic that could guide your marketing efforts with laser like precision? Today, we're going to discover that compass because our guest has distilled years of experience into what he calls the digital marketing success cycle for SMBs. Whether you're the captain of your SMB ship or the navigator plotting the course, this episode is for you. We're about to embark on a journey that'll transform the way you approach digital marketing, making it less of a daunting expedition and more of an exciting voyage of discovery. Join us as we welcome Dave Terrest, Director of Small Business Success from Constant Contact. With years of experience helping small businesses succeed online, Dave has distilled the essence of effective digital marketing into three key actions that form what he calls the digital marketing success cycle for SMBs. Today, he's going to break down this cycle and show you how to implement it in your own business, no matter your current level of marketing expertise. And Dave brings over a decade of experience at Constant Contact, where he's helped countless small businesses navigate the ever-changing landscape of digital marketing. His expertise in content marketing and his passion for simplifying complex concepts make him a go-to resource for SMB owners looking to level up their marketing game. He's here to revolutionize the way you think about and execute your marketing strategy. So get ready and transform your approach and drive real success for your small business. Hey, Dave, welcome to the show.
Mike, thanks so much for having me. A pleasure to be here. Sounds like I've got some things to live up to here. Geez, thank you for that intro. That intro was amazing.
A little bit. I got to hype you up. I got to make you feel like you belong here because you do. You're fantastic, and we love our friends at Constant Contact. But I'd love if you could start by just giving us an overview of what you told me is the digital marketing success cycle for SMBs. What does that entail?
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with a story here, as I kind of stumbled into this a little bit. Last year and the year before, I've been doing a yoga challenge, and it's basically I have to do 180 classes within 365 days to get a discount on my membership. And in an ideal world, they gave me this little card, right? And I have to do 15 classes each month in order to, over 12 months, I'd reached 180 classes. And as I'm doing this, as you know, things don't always go according to plan, right? So I miss a class here and there between travel, work stuff, family things, all of that. So each month, I end up checking in my calendar, and I got a little tracker that I'm using, and I'm putting how many classes I've done, how many I have to do for the whole year, and so I'm reviewing what I'm doing to see how my progress is going. And then I'm making some adjustments. So for the next month, all right, I have to make up this number of classes. I'm doing all that stuff, and then I'm putting those dates in my calendar, making sure I'm doing all that stuff. And as I'm doing this, I'm like, hey, this process actually feels a little bit familiar. As you mentioned, I've been talking to a lot of small businesses over my time at Constant Contact, and most recently for the Be a Marketer podcast. And I'm like, oh, this actually feels really familiar. This idea of reviewing what you're doing, making a plan right after you review to kind of make the changes that you need to change, and then actually executing. So review, plan, and execute. These kind of three things are things that I've heard time and time again from customers and small business owners of things that they're doing. So I'll give you some examples here. Marianne is a customer of ours who owns a consignment shop, and she's was telling us how she consistently is reviewing what she's doing, not only in her business, but with her marketing efforts, so she can figure out what's working and make those adjustments that she needs to make as those come up. We've got folks like uh, Nicole Stevenson. She she runs these makers markets, I would say, and what she does is she works with her team as she's putting on these markets and figuring out how to market it and get the things together. She's working with her team to put that plan in place. All right, these are the things that we need to do. This is the timeline. But then she goes and she actually breaks those things down into smaller tasks, preferably things that take like an hour or less, so they can actually get some things done and start moving forward. And then we've talked to folks like Tamika Catchings. She is a former WNBA Hall of Famer who now owns a tea shop. She actually has 3 locations now, and I believe she's actually started bottling tea and selling in markets. And so one of the things she always talks about is that you actually need to schedule the work that you care about. So you have to actually put some time in the calendar and do something with it to actually get any of this done. And so that idea of review, plan, execute, it's something that I hope becomes a mantra for people, right? And so if you take this and you start applying this to what you're doing, it's really about, all right, looking at your approach, right? What are you doing from a marketing angle, and what tools are you using to help you do those things? And then, how are you then planning those efforts that you're going to use these tools for to actually help you support your goals? And then how do you actually then execute those simple things and also boost your marketing productivity at the same time? And so it's that triumvirate of things: review, plan, execute, that this is really all about.
Okay, first of all, so speaking on behalf of a lot of our listeners, there's got to be some kind of huge discount at the end of that for me to commit to 180 yoga lessons. I don't know.
Well, it was like a $20 discount a month, so not too bad. And so plus, of course, you get all these benefits, Mike. Right? My health is
Right.
better. I'm a little bit more limber some days, right? But those are the real benefits. But yeah, I could use extra $20 off a month. That'd be nice.
Love it. I'm glad you mentioned the podcast. I was a guest. It was a fantastic experience. We'll have a link to the overall podcast in the show notes. A terrific resource for folks to listen to. But this triumvirate of activities sounds fascinating. But why do you think that's crucial for small business owners and small business marketers in particular?
Well, so here's some things that we know. Constant Contact actually does study earlier in the year, and some things that we found that are probably not going to be surprising to anybody listening, and even to yourself, Mike, as you start to think about it. But if you look at the state of marketing, 56% of the people that we talk to actually have an hour or less to spend on marketing. 73% of them actually feel iffy about their marketing strategy, and oftentimes because of that, 52% actually procrastinate on their marketing. So they're actually not doing the things, right? Because they'd rather do anything else than do the marketing piece. And as you know, so many business owners really got into business to do the thing that they love to do and not necessarily have to do the marketing. And so these are folks that I often say are, business owners first and marketers by necessity. So when you take all of that into account, this stuff really becomes crucial, because in the review aspect, right, this is where we can come in and say, like, all right, here are the things that you need to focus on. Here are the things that you need to do, right? And they're also iffy, so they're not really sure. Then in the plan piece, how do you then use those tools to work towards your goals, right? How do you put a plan in place to use the tools to support that? Because oftentimes everybody is offering advice, but they don't take into account the actuality of what is the individual business trying to do. And there's some things that, of course, you're going to put in the, some things you want to plan on, because they're going to help you no matter what your goals are, right? Because they're about bringing people closer to your business. But then the harsh reality is you actually got to put the plan in the calendar, right? You've got to do it. I mean, you listen to this podcast, for example, you go to an event, you do all these things, you get so excited about all these ideas and things that you learn. And then you go back home, and then you don't necessarily take action unless you put that time in the calendar, right? And so I think it's really critical and important, because it gets you thinking about and asking the right questions and knowing what angles that you need to go on, but then also moving you forward. All of these steps are action steps, right? It gets you moving forward. It gets you thinking about progress over perfection. I think doing something is always better than doing nothing. And this really helps you start to get in that mentality.
A lot of what you're saying really resonates with me, because I spent a lot of time working in and with small businesses over a decade or so ago. And I saw that issue where so many times the business owner was wearing so many hats in the organization, not just the thing that they were doing as a business, but they were also the HR coordinator, and they were also doing payroll, and they were also doing carpentry and plumbing and anything else that had to be done around the business, because if there wasn't somebody already assigned to that role, who else is going to do it? In fact, that's where the entire name of my blog and side business, the social media hat, came from, because it was like just one more hat that most owners didn't want to have to wear. with social media. So I appreciate that. But how does this cycle, do you think, differ from what we might refer to as traditional marketing, whether that's the roles or the responsibilities or the approach? And why do you think this works so well for small business owners? I don't know if that's pretty much echoing what you've already said or if there's more to it, do you think?
Well, I'm going to say this. I don't think it does differ. And I say that
Okay.
because I think what it is, it's just a practical, simple plan. I think we've got so much out there now. There's so much noise out there now telling you you're not doing it the right way. Right? Essentially, right? Trying to get you to buy something or buy into something. And so there's a lot of things that are like, you need to be more advanced. You need to be doing this thing. You need to be create this crazy automation. You need to do all these things. And yeah, sure, these are all things that can help you. But at the end of the day, again, these things end up becoming things that you have to find time to do. And they don't always necessarily move you forward. I'm a big believer in the foundational things. And I think as business owners, these are the things that you're also doing to move your business forward, right? Just to get started with the business, right? And it's about doing these simple actions that you can take time and time again to move you forward. And so I don't think this is anything against what is already out there. And it's about saying, embrace the traditional, ignore the noise about the next new shiny thing, and do the things that have worked for people time and time again through centuries, right? You're just taking the actions and moving forward.
Love that because it is a reminder of uh, how important the foundational things are, and that's why we have tools like ours that are in existence, right? You know, if you devote an hour a week to crafting that month's newsletter, schedule it out in constant contact, and then it's done, and you can move on to something else. You spend an hour a week crafting that week's or that month's social media post, then you schedule them out with the Agorapulse, and then it's done. And then you don't have to worry about it. And you know that marketing is happening because we know that when stuff gets a little chaotic in a business for whatever reason, marketing is often a thing, a task that's shoved off to the side. Like, well, we don't have time to do that. We've got to put out this fire, or we've got to, handle this hiring issue or work with this customer. And when we don't do the marketing for our businesses, that's when, after a couple of weeks or months of not doing enough marketing, we realize, oh crap, now we've got much deeper issues because we don't have the traffic, the pipeline, the sales coming in that we needed to do. So I'd love if you could walk us through in a little more detail each of these three steps, repeating them, right, and getting them ingrained in everybody's thought processes. But along the way, maybe share some examples of how small businesses might implement or enact each of these steps of your cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. So review, plan, execute. We'll start with review. And I think this is really all about just taking a look at what you're doing already, right? What's happening? What's working for you? Are you using the right tools? And specifically, here's what we know, right? Word of mouth is obviously happening online. This is the reason to be there. This is the reason to use these digital tools. And regardless, this is something that you're accentuating what you're doing, right? Because not everybody's just a strictly online business, but these are things that help you kind of be part of that online conversation. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. At the end of the day, marketing is really all about increasing, the word of mouth and keeping your business top of mind. And so, in order to do that, we often talk about this idea. So, when we think about approach, right? If people aren't sure what they're doing or what they're trying to do, simplify that. It's really all about what we call the engagement marketing cycle. And what we mean by that is wherever someone comes in contact with you, what you're trying to do is provide a great experience for them, right? So if they're, send you an email, they pick up the phone, they come to your store, they're visiting your website, you want that to feel like an experience. And this doesn't have to necessarily be anything crazy. It just allows them to reach the action that they were trying to do, right? That's how low the bar is set many times, right? You just need to let someone do what they want to do. Well, once they have that amazing experience with you, that's the perfect time to entice them to stay in touch with you. When you think of somebody visiting your website, making sure you have sign up forms there so you can capture that information, because once they leave your website, well, how do you influence them coming back again if you don't have a way to contact them, right? It's similarly when they come to the store and do all of these things. And so it's through that great experience, enticing them to stay connected with you, and then engaging with those people on a consistent basis. Think of the things that you can do to consistently keep people again, having your business be there without overextending yourself. It's through that engagement that, again, your business is top of mind. So when people are thinking about or in the market for what it is that you offer, that brings people back to your door. The social aspect of this, as when people are connecting and engaging with you on social, that actually drives more social visibility for you, increases the exposure of your business, and actually gets you connected with people that are likely good prospects because they're connected to people that are already connected to you. And that allows you to bring more people into your door and allows you to continue to build on that cycle. And so that's how we look at just our overall approach to marketing, right? Like, so if you're doing that, if you're thinking about how do we just get more people to keep our business top of mind, that's as simple as it needs to be. And so that's the engagement marketing cycle. From there, it's really about using some particular tools in more pointed ways, right? And I think it's about thinking through social media, your website, and those owned channels like email and text. We'll talk about those specifically. And so what you're doing with those is you want to make sure you're using something there. I think social media is not about necessarily spreading yourself too thin. I think there's a tendency to want to try to do everything, and for some people that's fine. But I think for many small business owners, particularly, or in small business marketers, it's about finding the one channel, right? Is there something that's working really well for you, or what's the best place for me to be? And really focusing on that and using that to actually get some, gain some ground, right? So you're not feeling like you're spinning your wheels. You're getting something actually working for your business. The big thing here, though, with social media, of course, is as we all know, it's you don't own that audience. It's driven by algorithms, which, again, good and bad, whatever. But things can change. Pages can go down. You can lose access to things, and so you really want to end up having a way to connect with people directly, which is where that email and text channels come in. Now, for the website, this is an important channel. I think it's important to make sure that you have something that's mobile responsive as well. So you want to make sure that your website can be viewed on whatever device people are using, so they have a good experience. Again, here comes that word experience. But that's often the place when you think about when somebody mentions a business to you or tells you, oh, you should check out these folks, or they're referred, or whatever the case may be. You're already kind of pre-sold a bit, but you're probably going to do a search. You're going to end up on the website. And what that person is doing is trying to figure out, is this the right business for me? And so you need to have that so you can tell your story. You can provide the resources, but again, try to capture that information. And then when we get into email and text, right, this again, it's that idea of really being able to reach people directly. And then not being beholden to the algorithms, right? And doing all of those things. And that really allows you to own that audience, right? So that you can contact them on your terms. And so the ultimate idea here is really to use each of these channels to bring people closer, right? So we're thinking of social, right? There's a lot of people that you're connected to. You want to start to wean that list down and get people moving closer with email, getting people even closer with text. I often talk about this idea of the party principle. It's like social media is the big party. And then when you go to a party, what happens? You start to see these little groups of people forming. And that's kind of like email, right? These are people that, oh, these are the people that I want to hang out with, right, at this big party. And then there are some people that maybe you go to the after party with, right? These are the VIP folks, right? These are the folks that give you access to them via text message, right? And so ultimately, this is what we're trying to do, bring people closer so that we have varying degrees of connections that allow us to harness the strengths of each of these channels. Again, social, those public interactions and engagements, that allows you to reach new people. Email, you can reach people directly. You can actually start to build that loyalty and start to drive sales through that channel. And then text really allows you to take advantage of the strength of that channel, which is timely and relevant and many times exclusive content that allows you to bring those people in and make them feel special. It's once you have those kind of foundational elements in place that then you can start thinking about, all right, am I going to add some paid activities here? Am I going to do these other things to kind of amplify your efforts? And so if you think of those actions and those items, it's really an opportunity to say, okay, well, how am I doing in each of these kind of areas, right? I mentioned the social channels, one performing better than another. Am I, again, making a plan to move people closer to me, to my own channels? Is my website mobile responsive? Am I answering the right questions there? And I can talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Are people taking the next step when they come to my website? Are they either buying something, or are they joining the email list? Do you have a plan in place? Are you regularly sending emails and text? Do you have some consistency there? And then are people taking those actions that you want them to take? And so it's really, again, review is all about looking at some of these things and saying, okay, like, how am I doing here? Am I using the right tools to engage and communicate? Am I bringing people closer to the business? And am I taking a look at and thinking about how each of these channels kind of work together to support what I'm trying to do from a business goal perspective?
That's terrific advice. I love, for instance, you talked about focusing on one social channel. That's something I've talked about for a long time. Always have just one or two social channels that are your primary. Have a presence on the other ones. Duplicate posts if you need to, that sort of thing. Don't completely ignore many of the other channels, but spend your time, spend your energy and your efforts on one. And a great way that you can have that synergy between email and social is if, when you have an email newsletter, you make sure that you share it on your primary channel, which Constant Contact, which I use personally, gives you a great web link that you can share to any social channel. So if it's LinkedIn company page, if it's a Facebook page, even if it's Instagram, you can share that there. But the other cool thing too is that you can highlight specific social posts again on that primary channel inside the newsletter. So you get this great cycle of people going back and forth between those channels, and you help them work better together because people can share the newsletter with other folks, and people can subscribe just by reading one of your newsletters and saying, oh, I like what Dave had to say in this. I want to be part of the next newsletter. So those are great suggestions of what people should be doing. What shouldn't they be doing? What are some common pitfalls, some mistakes that you see small business owners making, or marketers who are working in that space when it comes to digital marketing?
Well, I think I've touched on those a couple of times here. I think, right. I think the big mistakes, just in terms of just reviewing what you're doing, or in any of this, at the end of the day, is really about trying to feel like you need to be everywhere and do too much, right? So you get into this cycle of like, okay, now I got to be here, now I got to be here, and so you spread yourself too thin. I think that's a big mistake, and I think the other is really not taking advantage of the tools, right? Time and time again, we see the people that are successful are adopting, tools that help with automation, that help you reach people, right? Allow you to do that. Tools like Constant Contact, of course, Agora Pulse, all of that. Take advantage of them. Use the things that are in there. Take advantage of integrations. Do those types of things. And then I would say, again, not scheduling the time. That's the big mistake. Like, you have to make time in order to do these things, and it's about making that non-negotiable time many times.
Makes complete sense, folks. We're talking with Dave from Constant Contact about the challenges that are facing SMBs and digital marketing, particularly B2B businesses. And one challenge in particular is that lack of visibility into how the brand is actually performing on social media. That's something we're uniquely positioned to help you with.
Actually can't say enough great things about the reporting with Agora Pulse. I feel like that is my job security every month. My clients aren't that active on social media, which is why they have me manage their profiles for them. And when they get that report, it verifies that they're making a good investment.
The metrics downloads are so simple and easy to read, and it really helps me show where we are doing things right on social and where we need to improve.
So I think one of the main reasons why we decided to move to Agora Pulse is because it's a more comprehensive, integrated tool for all of our marketing needs. So rather than what we have had to do historically with Sprout, which is use certain parts of that platform that work really well and then supplement it with other outside tools, by moving to Agora Pulse, we were able to keep all of that into one technology platform, which is not only a time saver, but it also makes sure that our analytics and all of our reporting's on point because we're pulling all from the same source.
It's a really great platform for agencies. It makes it really easy to manage, but gives me really, really, really robust information that actually helps me develop better strategies for my clients and better plans of action.
So, Dave, you talked earlier about how important it is to have that time set aside to do the important tasks, and I couldn't agree more. And yet, I know many of the folks listening are going to be like, "I don't have that kind of time. I'm already working 80 hours a week or whatever." How do you think business owners can actually overcome that kind of a challenge of having limited time, having limited resources when they're trying to implement this cycle that you're teaching them?
Yeah, so I think the big thing is one, recognize, and we can talk through some of these, particularly in this plan, this section. But the idea is to know the things that you need to do, right? So again, that review piece allows you to identify some things, right? Oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. I haven't done that, and then you can prioritize those things. You can write those things down, and then say like, okay, what is the thing that I need to do first, right? Prioritize that. Choose one of those things and then just focus on that and then put a plan in place to get that one thing done. And then you can move to the next thing. Again, I think it's really easy for everyone to feel overwhelmed, particularly when you're not comfortable or feel like you don't have the time, the interest, or the expertise, right? But I think this is where there's folks like yourself and myself, right, really trying to provide the resources for people to take the ideas and take action on them. And I think it's about embracing that and just committing to it, really, and taking advantage of the tools that allow you to save time, right? And just knowing that they're there, and integrations and those types of things that really do allow you to move forward without doing something that may have taken you an hour before, can be, drastically reduced in time by integrating and using those connections between tools, of course.
That's exactly right. The tools today are often designed to save us time. Artificial intelligence is, being employed in so many different ways to save time. Our tools, Constant Content and Grow Pulse, both have AI ingrained into
Yeah.
them in a lot of ways to help folks save time. I'm spending a ton of time in my side business, just talking to people about how they're using AI in marketing, and it's almost always streamlining processes, making themselves more efficient to give themselves more time to do the other things that are super important to them. But I'm wondering if you could share a success story. I know you mentioned some folks earlier, but I'd love if you could go into a little more detail about how some small businesses are effectively using this cycle and they're improving their marketing results.
Yeah,
Therefore,
absolutely. So, a couple people come to mind. One is a real estate agent, and what he's been doing is he has been, I think, since 2007 or 2000, somewhere in there. He basically has started a newsletter, and he has decided on a consistency. So the plan was, I'm going to do this every Wednesday, and I'm going to share my best tips or insights into the market. And again, consistently trying to drive people to that newsletter, getting people on that list. And that's really all he was using as a marketing vehicle. And through doing that, at this point, he closes 100 deals a year because he's just consistently using that newsletter. And so this allows him to, again, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a plan in place. I'm going to do that. Here's my, time to get this done, share my insights, share my expertise, and consistently do that. And then whenever anybody is thinking about selling or buying some type of real estate, that's the first person that they think of. And so there's another woman. She is in the leadership space, right? Really. And she does something similar where she's sending a weekly newsletter. So again, the plan, what do I need to put in there? She puts in the tip, right? Education. And then she also adds she calls it a wheel of a deal, right? It's Wednesdays. So she sends her thing every Wednesday, and then she's looking at that, and then she puts in a little discount or something. And then that's a good day for her in terms of, additional sales. So she's looking, what are the things that are working well? What are people clicking on? What are people interested in? How can I then expand on that, right? So she's reviewing what's happening, and then, okay, here are the adjustments I need to make and moving forward. So again, it's the cycle of, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take action on something so I can get some type of result. And then I can see what happens and what I need to change and adjust. And then I'm going to put a plan in place to make those adjustments. So again, this is, we're looking at this from a marketing lens, but I feel like this is also something that you just do in any everyday life, right? When you want to accomplish something. All right, where are we right now? This is where we are. Okay, where do we need to go? Okay, we need to go over there. Okay, what do we need to do to get there? Okay, these are the things we need to do. Okay, now let's put a plan in place to move forward with it, right? it's really that process, that again and again, and really making sure that you're building in time to. I'm thinking of another customer who really actually sets up time within her year to take a couple of weeks off to not do anything but reflect and look on what's been happening, so that she can make a plan for the next year and then move her team towards that way, right? And so time and time again, this is what people are doing. They're taking the time to review, put a plan in place, and then execute the plan.
And I think the underlying truth here is that they're being consistent.
Yeah.
They're being consistent with the time that they put in. They're being consistent with the execution. It's a weekly newsletter, not a whenever I get around to it newsletter, right?
Yeah.
It's a daily or weekly presence on social media, not when we have the time or when we feel like it or when we have the inspiration, because that doesn't work. You have to have that consistency baked in. Our podcasts, they need to come out weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, whatever the schedule is that we decided. That's when they need to come out, so that it's not only a driving factor for the audience, it's a driving factor for ourselves. Right. We tell ourselves, okay, I'm committing to a weekly podcast. Now I have to get it done. And that will, in fact, make us continue to move forward. Because like you said, wherever we want to do, whatever we want to do in our lives, if I want to drive to Florida, I can't start driving and then stop. I'm not going to get to my destination. If I do that, I have to keep moving forward. I'll stop for gas, food, that kind of thing, but I have to keep moving forward. For people who are not doing this today, and we've got a lot of different folks in the audience: small business owners, mid-market owners, marketing executives, and team members from all different scopes and sizes of businesses, all from that B2B range, of course. Are there any specific tools or resources or guides that you could point them to that might help them either implement this cycle overall or for other specific parts of just their marketing in general?
Well, I think I often will point, obviously, people to Constant Contact. We create a ton of resources to help in each of these areas. So whatever it is that you're looking to do from a marketing perspective, we will have a webinar, we will have a guide, we will have probably a podcast episode, right, where we talk about these things and try to give you the practical advice that you can use to start to take action on these things. And so I would mention that. Of course, there's many other resources out there. I would offer that I think similarly about choosing and prioritizing. I think it's also important. It's very easy to get overwhelmed by how much knowledge is out there. I think it's really important to find something that jives with you, and then stick to that as your source of truth, and then work through those things, because I think it's easy to get distracted by, oh, and here's another thing that I can do, or another way to do this. And I think, yes, you want to embrace that. But again, this leads to that same problem we have with social media, where you're on every channel and spinning your wheels. Now you've got all this information and things that you want to implement, but you're not actually doing anything, right? And so I think it's important to do that. We mentioned how tools include AI and integrations, and I talked about that a little bit earlier. I think it's really also recognizing there is so much out there to help you save time on this, that you really do need to, again, if it's a half an hour a week, if it's an hour, better if it's an hour, right? So you can spend some time dedicated to, like, I'm going to do marketing tasks during this time. If you can do that, I think of, integrations that we have with things like Canva, for example, right? What's the big thing people will often do is like, Canva, great tool. I'm going to go to Canva. I'm going to make my image. Then I'm going to download the image to my computer. Then I'm going to go to wherever I want to use it. And then I'm going to upload that image, right? And you're creating this like cycle of extra steps where integrate Constant Contact with Canva, for example. You're connected to your Canva account. You can edit in Canva in Constant Contact, and your library is available to you in Constant Contact. So you can skip that step of downloading and creating this like graveyard of things that you've used on your computer taking up space, and then uploading, right? And it seems small, but actually I'm sure you've done this too, Mike, right? Like that's actually a big pain in the butt, right? Yeah. To download and upload, and you end up spending more time than you feel like you should be doing to do that. Similar with things like Shopify, for example, if you're selling, using that to sell e-com stuff, like Constant Contact can connect to that, and then pull in all of your product information that you have on your site, so that you don't have to download images, you don't have to get, copy and paste your product details, do all of those things that you would typically do. Saves you time. Use the AI. One of the cool things I think Constant Contact has really been moving forward with is this idea of a campaign builder. And so you can let Constant Contact know what it is that you're trying to do from a goal perspective, because again, your goal is what's going to drive what you end up doing. And then within minutes, the AI can create a multi-channel plan for you, along with the suggested timelines, the suggested reasons why you should do something at a particular moment, and give you the ability across, social, email, text, even if you want to run events or do a survey, something like that, and give you the straw man of a plan that you don't have to spend that time doing on your own, because particularly if you're not sure where to start, right, you might just struggle with that. And then we talked about procrastination, put it off, go do something else. This gives you a straw man of a plan that you can use as is, or go in and make edits and say, yes, let's do this, let's do that. And so all of these things are designed to help you. And time again, we see the folks that are successful, they are adopting these tools and making the best use of them in order to help them succeed.
Could not agree more. One other resource that I'll share with all of you folks, there's a framework for organizing your business, for coming up with objectives and a plan and that sort of thing. It's called the EOS framework. Did an entire episode about it with Matt Hines on our Social Pulse podcast agency edition. We'll do a link in the show notes below, but that's going to give you a streamlined structure, not just for marketing, as you've been talking over and over, Dave, but just for the business overall. What are our big rocks that are referred to in that framework, right? What are the objectives that we want to accomplish? What do we need to do to get there? And also then have a weekly format for meetings and accountability, so that every single week, the people who are involved are meeting on a regular basis. They're looking at what they need to work on. They're looking at a scorecard to see, did we do what we needed to do? Again, whether it's marketing or the business overall, and what else do we need to do this quarter to get to where we want to go, so that you've got that compass that we've been talking about since the outset, right? That will help them continue to move forward. So as we're thinking about moving forward, we've already talked about some trends like AI and that sort of thing. How do you see this cycle evolving in the short term with emerging technologies, changing consumer behaviors? Do you see anything changing in the short term with this?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to vary based on the business and the audience that you're trying to reach. But I think what this allows you to do, this process, again, if this becomes a consistent thing that you're doing, it allows you to evolve with what is happening, right? What is happening with your customers? What is happening with the tools? Are there more things that you can use? And I think you have to adopt this mindset of marketing. It's best to adopt this mindset of, try it. Let's see what happens, right? Right. And, what are the things that we could use to adopt to make it easier for us? And I think if you come in with this kind of testing idea, you're going to be in a better place to make change when you need to. And that's what allows you to stay ahead of the game, because it's the businesses that don't embrace these changes that are happening. I think it's the businesses that aren't paying attention to the customer and where the customer is going that are often going to fall behind. And if you can do that, you're going to be able to, if you have that right mindset, you're going to be able to kind of change and make those adjustments that you need to along the way.
That is such a powerful point. It kind of reiterates something that we talked about earlier, where if you have a limited amount of time, say an hour or two a week, right? We're gonna devote that time to sending out a short newsletter and do one LinkedIn page post. And that's probably all you're gonna be able to accomplish at first, because it's new to you, right? But after you've been doing that for 3 months, well, now the LinkedIn posts are kind of old hat. It's something that we've been doing for a while, so now we're able to do it pretty quickly. The newsletter, we've brought in some integrations, and we've got that process down where it really doesn't take that much time to churn out the newsletter. And now we can start to add paid, and now we can start to explore other technologies and other channels. So I love that point, because with that consistency will come the streamlined processes and the freedom to explore other things. Dave, this has been absolutely fantastic. I want to thank you so much. For those who want to learn more about you, about Constant Contact, or connect with you, where should they go?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, if you want to learn more about the tools that Constant Contact offers, we also have a free trial that you can check us out. So visit constantcontact.com, of course. I'm active on LinkedIn. That's the kind of my primary social channel that I'm working on. So I'd love to connect with you there. Let me know. I can, hit me up with a DM too. I'm happy to share some slides that I have that actually talk more about this process and give you some ideas of things there. I'm happy to share those with you. And you can also visit my website and sign up for my newsletter that I do twice monthly at davesharest.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, all of you, for listening. We'll have all the links and all the resources that we talked about in today's episode in the show notes below. And don't forget, find the Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition on Apple and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for joining another episode of Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the leading social media management solution. Learn more at agorapulse.com. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave us a review. We value your feedback and look forward to bringing you more useful insights.